the government really has a tremendous amount of headroom to give more to the people. And I think one of the focus areas could well be a reduction in excise duties on petroleum products.
That's a long
which is very easy. It's easy to do because GST is so strong. GST revenue in the year to date is up about 11%. But more importantly, direct tax revenue is up more than 20% year on year. Personal and corporate taxes are booming. And so that gives headroom. I mean, that just provides a lot of room for maneuver. And in the year ahead, or perhaps even in the 2 months ahead, there's going to be a lot of scope for additional spending because there is so much room. I mean, for the first 9 months, the fiscal deficit is only 55% of the target. And I point out that pre-COVID, so if you look at FY19, for instance, in the period until December, the fiscal deficit was already 112% of the full year target, because the final quarter is the strongest quarter for revenue. January to March, especially March, is the strongest month for tax revenue. That is still to come, and yet already in the first 9 months, the deficit is so much lower than target. So there's a huge amount of room to provide additional tax cuts or rebates, as well as to boost spending even more. And particularly, I think CapEx spending will continue to grow very strongly in the period ahead and help to crowd in private investment.
Absolutely. I have Ashok Sehgal with us. He's co-chairman of the CI National MSME Council. Mr. Sehgal, good morning. We're taking quick expectation.
Good morning to you.
Reactions from everyone before the interim budget presentation. What are yours, sir?
Well, from the MSME point of view, the last budget was very good for us, and the government had made a lot of allocations of funds. We hope that this interim budget will continue that trend. In the last few weeks, we've been hearing a lot of comments from the government, including the finance ministry, on the need to continue to support MSMEs and the need to make sure that MSMEs, particularly the micro and small sector, is fully supported. So we are expecting that the government will take concrete steps. One of the steps we are requesting is that the payments cycle, which always hurts MSMEs, should be accelerated by making available funds to the government, which in the final run is one of the major buyers of goods and services in the country. MSMEs may not directly participate in some of the large tenders, but they're part of the supply chain. So whether they're to be directly paid by the government or the intermediaries, who may be the large corporates, are paid on time, it enables them in turn to pay their supply chain of MSMEs on a timely basis. So we really hope that the payment problems of MSMEs can be made easier by the government releasing funds on its various projects, and going forward continuing to to allocate funds for new projects and expansion of various government enterprises, so that once again there can be a trickle-down effect of that to the MSMEs.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Sehgal, thank you very much for that. I want to mention the upsides that we have. Kishore, yes, of course, I see you come in, but I just want to mention here, whenever you do any economic planning in the future, you plan for the likely upside in the next 2 or 3 years, including the guaranteed upsides that we have. Now, there has been thinking in this country, Abhishek, on digitalization, bank reforms, heavy PSU expenses, right? Maximizing your revenue, strong fiscal discipline, but a huge amount of state welfareism, and getting the private participation into the state welfareism policies as well, and then tweaking your foreign policy to help your business. So a lot of fundamentals right. Going forward, I expect the government to go big bang on things like the India-UK FTA, to build on the advantages of the economic corridor, which were affected by the problems around the Red Sea area, more capex investment, but also I think Narendra Modi's government in 3.0 mode would want to make India more tax compliant. Tax compliant. So there is a lot of upside economically. I mean, the next 2 years, there's a lot of upside. A lot of the work that has been done in 10 years will really show dividends and show results in the next 2 or 3 years.
Specifically on tax compliance, the fact that when the Modi government came in, there were just about 2 crore plus taxpayers in the country, the individual taxpayers, the number stands at over 8 crores now, quadrupled. Also, the point that Piruz Kambata was making, and he had a tic-tac with Suhail. You see, the fact of the matter is that again, when the Modi government came in, the average corporate tax was about 33%, stands at 25% now, most of it. Personal income tax, which stood at average of about 18 or 19% for income less than 15 lakh rupees, it stands at about 10%, 11% now. So obviously, it's a work in progress. Some people would get restless and say they want more of it, double quick time. But then, things take their own time in terms of get things in order. Also keep in mind that revenue has to be there. If, for example, the government, the way it dealt with the pandemic period, taking all the burden on itself, does all the heavy lifting, at the same time does not crowd out private investment. So obviously that kind of lateral freedom, that kind of scope has to be there. And within that framework, the fact that in the last 30 months on the trot, the purchasing managers index of manufacturing has been above 50 and been increasing. On the trot for the last 30 months, the purchasing managers index for the services sector has been above 50 and increasing. Really shows the kind of pink of health the economy has been, revenues looking good, and the finance minister, of course, wherever possible, keeping in mind the state welfareism by way of capital expenditure, at the same time, keeping that door completely open so far as private investment and private participation is concerned. The beautiful example of which is the defense sector, for example, where when the Modi government came in, India's defense exports were a paltry about $200 million, stand about $2 billion plus now.
Yeah, Arnab, I want to add one more point which none of us have yet spoken, is that, see, the whole objective of any government when it comes to fiscal prudence or improving the economy is the per capita income. I don't know whether you've been following that recently. One more cynical person, Raghuram Rajan, has been saying that India's per capita income by 2047, even if we grow at a nominal 6%, is going to be subpar what today China is at about $12,000. But I think he's got it completely wrong, because if you look at the historical data of the per capita income increase for Indians, there have been years where it has gone up by 17, 18, 20%, and there have been suboptimal returns. But you should understand that China is starting at a base of 12,000 now, while we are at 2,380. So the gap is going to remain even after 20-25 years. But at the rate at which we are going to go in terms of increment in per capita income, that's going to be very critical, because that is the key measure at how many people come up in the middle class, upper middle class, and from the lower class, and that is going to be high. I always kept saying, I tweeted also, that we have moved on from an era of Raghuram Bharose to Shriram Bharose.
Very good point about Raghuram Rajan, by the way. In his book, he says if you have 4% real per capita income growth for the next 25 years, he's he doesn't even look at the data, unfortunately. The data tells you that during the last 9.5 years, if you just take out the COVID period, average annual growth in per capita income is over 6% in real terms.
Absolutely.
Nominal is even more. Nominal is not more like 9 or 10%. So the point is that, in fact, if you use 6% real growth instead of 4%, and look at the compound growth, it'll be substantially more than the number that Raghuram Rajan has come up with for 2047. In fact, he's totally wrong. 2047 will be closer to $20,000 to $22,000 per capita
my
income.
point. We'll be at 20,000.
If you have that, you're essentially where the United States was 30 years ago, or where Korea was, say, 5 years ago. So, that is, if you go to Korea, you see it's a completely developed economy. If you have the whole of India at a $20,000 per capita income, that is absolutely transformative. So, that's really the story. And I think you just get the math right, and you have spectacular outcomes. That is just. So of course,
I think we're giving Raghuram Rajan too much attention, given that he is a complete has-been, and he, like other people, go around collecting fellowships and postdoctoral assignments in America, studying poverty in India, which also will not be an option for them in the future given our growth. point is also I want to go into the 6-minute run-up before the budget presentation with one thought. Viewers, remember, just 3 Indian states, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, are the destination of 70% of FDI. So when we want to power up the other states, when other states receive FDI, you know, think of the transformative potential. I think we'll cross double-digit growth. Ashish, a quick word from you, and then Sohail before the presentation. Ashish.
Yeah, so the point I wanted to make was in continuation to what PK just mentioned about, you know, there's one data point which kind of people miss, and when they compare India's growth from 2014 to 2023, see from 2004 to 2013, India's GDP growth was 7.8, but the world growth at that time was 5.6. From 2014 to 2023, India's growth has been 6.9, but the world growth has been just 4%. So if you compare that, the tailwind that was there in the previous decade, accounting for that, this growth has been significantly higher. That's the one point I wanted to make. You also mentioned about the FDI in just 3 states. Yeah, that was one of the key reasons why I wrote a 550 pages report on Uttar Pradesh called New India's Growth Engine and submitted it in December of 2021. So the whole idea is you have other states growing, and the biggest surprise is coming from Uttar Pradesh. That's one data point people seem to be ignoring.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll go to R. Dinesh of the CII, and Sohail is there also with us. So quick two, Mr. Dinesh. Good morning. We are 6 minutes to the presentation of the budget.
Good morning.
Quickly, your thoughts in this last minute run-up.
No. So I think for us it's a clear direction, continuity, the continued focus on the infrastructure. And if you look at equitable growth, you did mention that we'll have the opportunity for various other states to catch up in the rate of growth for a significant increase for the economy. I think that plus the fact that the rural and women as well as medium and small scale enterprises are focused on. So this is for us a direction to be given, and obviously to lay the foundation for the budget which is going to come in July. So we are looking for the capex spend to go up and the focus on that to continue.
Right, Mr. Dinesh. Sohail, 5 minutes now to go. Right, we've all seen what the economic survey said. We've got the overall picture. I would say the government's going to go full on to help the poorer segments, the youth, the women, the farmers are going to be the main focus, and the rest of the focus on banking, finance, insurance, things which impact FDI will probably come after the elections. Your quick take, Sohail.
So Kishore is an economist, so I won't argue with him on the economic aspects, but let me tell you, industry drives on 2 areas. One is on sentiment and the other is on ease of business, and India has done magnificently better on both these accounts in the last 10 years. That's number one. Number two, the policies are fairly clear, so there is no nepotism, there is no obfuscation in terms of the clarity of the policy. So those who had to rush to Delhi don't have to rush anymore. Number three, your bulwark sectors, which are large employment generators, are only 2: tourism and real estate. We are seeing a boom in both these. I mean, an unimaginable boom. Now let's come to MSME, which I've always said, including on your program, last budget program last year. The MSME is the bulwark of the Indian economy, but the MSME was ravaged during the times of COVID, like every industry was. It will take some time. The tragedy is we are the kind of people, when we are supposed to crawl, we want to jump. These things will happen slowly. A stable economy grows organically. It doesn't grow in fits and starts. Number two, you call it an interim budget. I call it the 1.0 of 2024. There will be a 2.0 because Modi will be back. Unless, the yatras spin out of control, which is also not going to happen. So what Modi will do is he will give you a window to the world he wants to create for every Indian, including the segments you so rightly mentioned. Please cut our government some slack. during COVID times and post that, the free rations have actually helped the poorest of the poor. To then say, oh, but the rich, to hell with the rich here. The rich in this country have used every trick in the book in the past through crony capitalism of bleeding the system. That bleeding has stopped. Rajiv Gandhi famously said, out of every 1 rupee, only 15 paisa reaches the direct beneficiary. That has changed. When the India that we inherited has changed so dramatically, I believe the following will happen. A, we will hit all our targets. B, as PK said, the deficit is reasonably and comfortably low, and the government is continuing to spend. I am a great optimist, and I'm a great believer that India is on the right track. Opinions and cynicism cannot derail us, because the people of India are now committed to making the economic horizon even more special than before.
Sohail, I am in agreement with you. Just to clarify, I am in complete agreement.
Okay, we'll get a quick tip. How the market's doing, Sharmila?
As you know, the markets are the best barometer for how a budget is likely to perform, and we have very good news this morning because both Sensex and Nifty are trading 0.3% higher than last closure. So we have Nifty at 21,791 and Sensex at 71,966, which is very good news because had the market sensed a populist budget ahead of itself, the market would have likely to have dipped. But with the market trading higher, we do see that the market has a confidence in the interim budget, which is now going to open in any minute now.
And if I could add, Arnav, this is despite two dampeners. One is domestic, where RBI gave a whack to Payments Bank of Paytm, and that has caused some consternation. And then the US Fed has said that they are not tapering off interest rate by March. So obviously those two dampeners, despite that, markets doing well.
I'm delighted that Shaktikant Das is taking the kind of steps he is. We need a courageous and a governor who cares. We don't need a governor who delivers talks at IIMs and IITs.
So that's a message to China, by the way.
Shaktikant Das has taken the action that he has on Paytm. And the action, by the way, is only compliance related. So, Arnab, when you look at things from the point of view of industry, from the point of view of employees,
we get back to Parliament now. I think we got a feed. We got a feed of the budget session starting out.
अंकल मेरी चाबी और आपके लिए
Can we cut to the feed, please? Thank you.
प्रस्तुत हो जाने के पश्चात माननीय सदस्य बजट भाषण की प्रति प्रकाशन काउंटर से प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। आपको ये भी सूचित किया जाता है कि माननीय मंत्री द्वारा बजट प्रस्तुत किए जाने के पश्चात उसे मेंबर पोर्टल पर भी उपलब्ध करा दिया जाएगा। माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी,
Honorable Speaker, I present the interim budget for 24-25. The Indian economy has witnessed profound positive transformation in the last 10 years. The people of India are looking ahead to the future with hope and optimism. With the blessings of the people, when our government, under the visionary and dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, assumed office in 2014, the country was facing enormous challenges. With Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas as its mantra, the government overcame those challenges in right earnest. Structural reforms were undertaken. Pro-people programs were formulated and implemented promptly. Conditions were created for more opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship. The economy got a new vigor. The fruits of development started reaching the people at scale. The country got a new sense of purpose and hope. Naturally, the people blessed the government with a bigger mandate. In the second term, our government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, doubled down on its responsibilities to build a prosperous country with comprehensive development of all people and all regions. Our government strengthened its mantra to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. Our development philosophy covered all elements of inclusivity, namely social inclusivity through coverage of all strata of the society, and geographical inclusivity through development of all regions of the country. With the whole of nation approach of Sabka Prayas, the country overcame the challenges of once-in-a-century pandemic, took long strides towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, committed to Panch Pran, and laid solid foundations for the Amrit Kal. As a result, our young country has high aspirations, pride in its present, and hope and confidence for a bright future. We expect that our government, based on its stupendous work, will be blessed again by the people with a resounding mandate. Inclusive development and growth. Our humane and inclusive approach to development is a marked and deliberate departure from the earlier approach of provisioning up to village level. Development programs were thus provisioned. In the last 10 years, however, have targeted each and every household and individual through housing for all, Har Ghar Jal, electricity for all, cooking gas for all, bank accounts and financial services for all in record time. The worries about food have been eliminated through free ration for 80 crore people. Minimum support prices for the produce of Annadata are periodically increased appropriately. These and the provision of basic necessities have enhanced real income in the rural areas. Their economic needs could be addressed, thus spurring growth and generating jobs. Social justice. Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive, and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi, or Sarvasamaveshi. It covers all castes and people at all levels. We are working to make India a Vikasit Bharat by 2047. For achieving that goal, we need to improve people's capability and empower them. Previously, social justice was mostly a political slogan. For our government, social justice is an effective and necessary governance model. The saturation approach of covering all eligible people is the true and comprehensive achievement of social justice. This is secularism in action, reduces corruption, and prevents nepotism, prevents Bhai Bhatijawad. There is transparency and assurance that benefits are delivered to all eligible people. The resources are distributed fairly. All, regardless of their social standing, get access to opportunities. We are addressing systemic inequalities that had plagued our society. We focus on outcomes and not on outlays, so that the social economic transformation is achieved. As our Prime Minister firmly believes, we need to focus on 4 major castes. They are Garib, Mahilaye, Yuva, and Annadata. Their needs, their aspirations, and their welfare are our highest priority. The country progresses when they progress. All four require and receive government support in their quest to better their lives. Their empowerment and well-being will drive the country forward. Garib Kalyan, Desh Ka Kalyan. We believe in empowering the poor. The earlier approach of tackling poverty through entitlements had resulted in very modest outcomes. When the poor became empowered partners in the development process, government's power to assist them also increases manifold. With the pursuit of Sabka Saath, in these 10 years, the government has assisted 25 crore people to get freedom from multi-dimensional poverty. Our government's efforts are now getting synergized with energy and passion of such empowered people. This is truly elevating them from poverty. Direct benefit transfer of 34 lakh crore rupees from the government using PM Jan Dhan accounts has led to savings of 2.7 lakh crores of rupees for the government. This savings has been realized through avoidance of leakages prevalent earlier. The savings have helped in providing more funds for Garib Kalyan. PM Swanidhi has provided credit assistance to 78 lakh street vendors. From that total of 78 lakh street vendors, 2.3 lakh have received credit for the third time. PM Janman Yojana reaches out to the particularly vulnerable tribal groups who have remained outside the realm of development so far. PM Vishwakarma Yojana provides end-to-end support to artisans and craftspeople engaged in 18 trades. The schemes for empowerment of Divyangs and transgender persons reflect firm resolve of our government to leave no one behind. Welfare of Annadata. Farmers are our Annadata. Every year under PM Kisan Samman Yojana, direct financial assistance is provided to 11.8 crore farmers, including marginal and small farmers. Crop insurance is given to 4 crore farmers under PM Fasal Bima Yojana. These, besides several other programs, are assisting Annadata in producing food for the country and for the world. Electronic National Agricultural Market has integrated 1,361 mandis and is providing services to 1.8 crore farmers with trading volume of 3 lakh crores of rupees. The sector is poised for inclusive, balanced, higher growth and productivity. These are facilitated from farmer-centric policies, income support, coverage of risks through price and insurance support, promotion of technologies and innovations through startups. Empowering the Amrit PD, the Yuva. Our prosperity depends on adequately equipping and empowering the youth. The National Education Policy 2020 is ushering the transformational reforms. PM Schools for Rising India, PM Shri, are delivering quality teaching and nurturing holistic and well-rounded individuals. The Skill India mission has trained 1.4 crore youth, upskilled and reskilled 54 lakh youth, and established 3,000 new ITIs. A large number of institutions of higher learning, namely 7 IITs, 16 triple ITs, 7 IIMs, 15 AIMS, and 390 universities have been set up. PM Mudra Yojana has sanctioned 43 crore loans aggregating to 22.5 lakh crores of rupees for entrepreneurial aspirations of our youth. Besides that, Fund of Funds, Startup India, and Startup Credit Guarantee schemes are assisting our youth. They are also becoming Rozgar Data. The country is proud of our youth scaling new heights in sports. The highest ever medal tally in Asian Games and Asian Para Games in 2023 reflects a high confidence level. Chess prodigy and our #1 ranked player Pragnananda put up a stiff fight against the reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen in 2023. Today, India has over 80 chess grandmasters compared to little over 20 in 2010. Momentum for Nari Shakti. The empowerment of women through entrepreneurship, ease of living, and dignity for them has gained momentum in these 10 years. 30 crore Mudra Yojana loans have been given to women entrepreneurs. Female enrollment in higher education has gone up by 28% in 10 years. In STEM courses, girls and women constitute 43% of enrollment, one of the highest in the world. All these measures are getting reflected in the increasing participation of women in workforce. Making triple talaq illegal, reservation of 1/3 seats for women in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies, and giving over 70% houses under PM Awas Yojana in rural areas to women, and giving over 70% houses under PM Awas Yojana in rural areas to women as sole or joint owners have enhanced their dignity. Exemplary track record of governance, development, and performance. Besides delivering on high growth in terms of gross domestic product, the government is equally focused on a more comprehensive GDP, that is, governance, development, and performance. Our government has provided transparent, accountable, people-centric, and prompt, trust-based administration with citizen-first and minimum government, maximum governance approach. The impact of all-round development is discernible in all sectors. There is macroeconomic stability, including in the external sector. Investments are robust. The economy is doing well. People are living better and earning better, with even greater aspirations for future. Average real income of the people has increased by 50%. Inflation is moderate. People are getting empowered, equipped, and enabled to pursue their aspirations. There is effective and timely delivery of programs and of large projects. Economic management. The multi-pronged economic management over the past 10 years has complemented people-centric, inclusive development. Following are some of the major elements. 1. All forms of infrastructure, physical, digital, or social, are being built in record time. Number 2, all parts of the country are becoming active participants in economic growth. Number 3, digital public infrastructure, a new factor of production as if in the 21st century, is instrumental in formalization of the economy. Number 4, goods and services tax has enabled one nation, one market, one tax. Tax reforms have led to deepening and widening of tax base. Number 5, strengthening of the financial sector has helped in making savings, credit, and investments more efficient. Number 6, GIFT, IFSC, and the Unified Regulatory Authority, IFSCA, are creating a robust gateway for global capital and financial services for the economy. Number 7, proactive inflation management has helped keep inflation within the policy band. Now, the global context, Honorable Speaker, sir. Geopolitically, global affairs are becoming more complex and challenging with wars and conflicts. Globalization is being redefined with reshoring and friendshoring, disruption and fragmentation of supply chains, and competition for critical minerals and technologies. A new world order is emerging after the COVID pandemic. India assumed the G20 presidency during very difficult times for the world. The global economy was going through high inflation, high interest rates, low growth, very high public debt, low trade growth, and climate changes. The pandemic has led to a crisis of food, fertilizer, fuel, and finances for the world, while India successfully navigated its way. The country showed the way forward and built consensus on solutions for those global problems. The recently announced India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor is a strategic and economic game changer for India and others. In the words of Honorable Prime Minister, the corridor, and I quote, will become the basis of world trade for hundreds of years to come, and history will remember that this corridor was initiated on Indian soil, unquote. Vision for Vikasit Bharat. Our vision for Vikasit Bharat is that of prosperous Bharat in harmony with nature, with modern infrastructure, and providing opportunities for all citizens and all regions to reach their potential. With confidence arising from strong and exemplary track record of performance and progress, earning Sabka Vishwas, the next 5 years will be years of unprecedented development and golden moments to realize the dream of developed India by 2047. The trinity of demography, democracy, and diversity backed by Sabka Prayas has the potential to fulfill aspirations of every Indian. As Honorable Prime Minister in his Independence Day address to the nation mentioned, I quote, there is no dearth of opportunities, as many opportunities as we want. The country is capable of creating more opportunities. Sky is the limit, unquote. Strategy for Amrit Kal. Our government will adopt economic policies that foster and sustain growth, facilitate inclusive and sustainable development, improve productivity, create opportunities for all, help them enhance their capabilities, and contribute to generation of resources to power investments and fulfill aspirations. Guided by the principle, reform, perform, and transform, the government will take up next generation reforms and build consensus with the states and stakeholders for effective implementation. It is an important policy priority for our government to ensure timely and adequate finances, relevant technologies, and appropriate training for the micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, to grow and also compete globally. Orienting the regulatory environment to facilitate their growth will be an important element of this policy mix. Aligning with the Panchamrit goals, our government will facilitate sustaining high and more resource-efficient economic growth. This will work towards energy security in terms of availability, accessibility, and affordability. For meeting the investment needs, our government will prepare the financial sector in terms of size, capacity, skills, and regulatory framework. Aspirational Districts Program. Our government stands ready to assist the states in faster development of aspirational districts and blocks, including generation of ample economic opportunities. Development of the East. Our government will pay utmost attention to make the eastern region and its people a powerful driver of India's growth. PM Awas Yojana Gramin. Despite the challenges due to COVID, implementation of PM Awas Yojana Gramin continued, and we are close to achieving the target of 3 crore houses. 2 crore more houses will be taken up in the next 5 years to meet the requirement arising from increase in the number of families. Rooftop solarization and Muft Bijli. Through rooftop solarization, 1 crore households will be enabled to obtain up to 300 units free electricity every month. This scheme follows the resolve of Honorable Prime Minister on the historic day of consecration of Sri Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Following benefits are expected. Savings up to 15 to 18,000 rupees annually for households from free solar electricity and selling the surplus to the distribution companies. Charging of electric vehicles. Entrepreneurship opportunities for a large number of vendors for supply and installation. Employment opportunities for the youth with technical skills in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance. Housing for middle class. Our government will launch a scheme to help deserving sections of the middle class, and I quote from Honorable Prime Minister's words, living in rented houses or slums or chawls and unauthorized colonies, unquote, to buy or build their own houses. Medical colleges. Several youth are ambitious to get qualified as doctors. They aim to serve our people through improved healthcare services. Our government plans to set up more medical colleges by utilizing the existing hospital infrastructure under various departments. A committee for this purpose will be set up to examine the issues and make relevant recommendations. Cervical cancer vaccination. Our government will encourage vaccination for girls in the age group of 9 to 14 years for prevention of cervical cancer. Maternal and child health care. Various schemes for maternal and child care will be brought under one comprehensive program for synergy in implementation. Upgradation of Anganwadi centers under Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 will be expedited for improved nutrition delivery, early childhood care and development. The newly designed U-Win platform for managing immunization and intensified efforts of Mission Indradhanush will be rolled out expeditiously throughout the country. Ayushman Bharat. Healthcare cover under Ayushman Bharat scheme will be extended to all ASHA workers, to all Anganwadi workers and helpers. Agriculture and food processing. The efforts of value addition in agriculture sector and boosting farmers' incomes will be stepped up. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana has benefited 38 lakh farmers and generated 10 lakh employment. Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro Food Processing Enterprises Yojana has assisted 2.4 lakh SHGs and 60,000 individuals with credit linkages. Other schemes are complementing the efforts for reducing post-harvest losses and improving productivity and incomes. For ensuring faster growth of the sector, our government will further promote private and public investment in post-harvest activities, including aggregation, modern storage, efficient supply chains, primary and secondary processing and marketing and branding. Nano DAP. After the successful adoption of nano urea, application of nano DAP on various crops will be expanded in all agroclimatic zones. Atmanirbhar Oil Seeds Abhiyan. Building on the initiative announced in 2022, a strategy will be formulated to achieve Atmanirbharta for oil seeds such as mustard, groundnut, sesame, soya bean, and sunflower. This will cover research for high-yielding varieties, widespread adoption of modern farming techniques, market linkages, procurement, value addition, and crop insurance. Dairy development. A comprehensive program for supporting dairy farmers will be formulated. Efforts are already on to control foot and mouth disease. India is the world's largest milk producer with but with low productivity of milch animals. The program will be built on the success of existing schemes such as Rashtriya Gokul Mission, National Livestock Mission, and infrastructure development funds for dairy processing and animal husbandry. Matsya Sampada. It was a government which set up a separate department for fisheries, realizing the importance of assisting fishermen. This has resulted in doubling of both inland and aquaculture production. Seafood exports since 2013-14 has also doubled. Implementation of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana will be stepped up to 1. Enhance aquaculture productivity from existing 3 to 5 tons per hectare. 2. Double exports to 1 lakh crore rupees, and 3. Generate 55 lakh employment opportunities in the near future. 5 integrated aqua parks will also be set up. Lakpati Didi. 83 lakh SHGs. 83 lakh SHGs with 9 crore women are transforming rural socio-economic landscape with empowerment and self-reliance. Honorable Speaker said, their success has assisted nearly 1 crore women to become Lakpati Didi already. They are an inspiration to others. Their achievements will be recognized through honoring them. Buoyed by the success, it has been decided to enhance the target for Lakpati Didi from 2 crores to 3 crores. Technological changes, new age technologies and data are changing the lives of people and businesses. They are also enabling new economic opportunities and facilitating provision of high-quality services at affordable prices for all, including those at the bottom of the pyramid. Opportunities for India at the global level are expanding. India is showing solutions through innovation and entrepreneurship of its people. Research and innovation for catalyzing growth, employment, and development. Prime Minister Shastri, Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri gave the slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Prime Minister Vajpayee, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, made that Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan. Prime Minister Modi has furthered that to Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan and Jai Anusandhan, as innovation is the foundation of development. For our tech-savvy youth, this will be a golden era. A corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees will be established with 50-year interest-free loan provided. The corpus will provide long-term financing or refinancing with long tenors and low and or nil. I repeat that sentence. The corpus will provide long-term financing or refinancing with long tenors and low or nil interest rates. This will encourage the private sector to scale up research and innovation significantly in sunrise domains. We need to have programs that combine the powers of our youth and technology. A new scheme will be launched for strengthening deep tech technologies for defense purposes and expediting Atmanirbharta. Infrastructure development. Building on the massive tripling of the capital expenditure outlay in the past 4 years, resulting in huge multiplier impact on economic growth and employment creation, the outlay for the next year is being increased by 11.1% to 11,11,111 crore rupees. This would be 3.4% of our GDP. Railways. 3 major railway corridor programs will be implemented. These are energy, mineral and cement corridor. Number 2, port connectivity corridors. And number 3, high traffic density corridors. The projects have been identified under the PM Gati Shakti for enabling multimodal connectivity. They will improve logistics efficiency and reduce cost. The resultant decongestion of the high traffic corridors will also help in improving operations of passenger trains, resulting in safety and higher travel speed for passengers. Together with dedicated freight corridors, these 3 economic corridor programs will accelerate our GDP growth and reduce logistic costs. 40,000 normal rail bogies will be converted to Vande Bharat standards to enhance safety, convenience and comfort of passengers. Aviation sector. The aviation sector has been galvanized in the past 10 years. Number of airports have doubled to 149. Rollout of air connectivity to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities under UDAN scheme has been widespread. 517 new routes are carrying 1.3 crore passengers. Indian carriers have proactively placed orders for over 1,000 new aircrafts. Expansion of existing airports and development of new airports will continue expeditiously. Metro and Namo Bharat. We have a fast expanding middle class and rapid urbanization is taking place. Metro rail and Namo Bharat can be the catalyst for the required urban transformation. Expansion of these systems will be supported in large cities, focusing on transit-oriented development. Green energy. Towards meeting our commitment for net zero by 2070, the following measures will be taken. Viability gap funding will be provided for harnessing offshore wind energy potential for initial capacity of 1 gigawatt. Coal gasification and liquefaction capacity of 100 metric tons will be set up by 2030. This will also help in reducing imports of natural gas, methanol, and ammonia. Phased mandatory blending of compressed biogas in compressed natural gas for transport and piped natural gas for domestic purposes will be mandated. Financial assistance will be provided for procurement of biomass aggregation machinery to support collection. Electric vehicle ecosystem. Our government will expand this and strengthen the e-vehicle ecosystem by supporting manufacturing and charging infrastructure. Greater adoption of e-buses for public transport networks will be encouraged through payment security mechanism. Biomanufacturing and biofoundry. For promoting green growth, a new scheme of biomanufacturing and biofoundry will be launched. This will provide environment-friendly alternatives such as biodegradable polymers, bioplastics, biopharmaceuticals, and bioagri inputs. This scheme will also help in transforming today's consumptive manufacturing paradigm to the one based on regenerative principles. Blue Economy 2.0. For promoting climate resilient activities for Blue Economy 2.0, a scheme for restoration and adaptation measures and coastal aquaculture and mariculture with integrated and multi-sectoral approach will be launched. Comprehensive development of tourist centers. The success of organizing G20 meetings in 60 places presented diversity of India to global audience. Our economic strength has made the country an attractive destination for business and conference tourism. Our middle class also now aspires to travel and explore. Tourism, including spiritual tourism, has tremendous opportunities for local entrepreneurship. States will be encouraged to take up comprehensive development of iconic tourist centers, branding and marketing them at global scale. A framework for rating of the centers based on quality of facilities and services will be established. Long-term interest-free loans will be provided to states for financing such development on matching basis. To address the emerging fervor for domestic tourism, Honorable Speaker, sir, projects for port connectivity, tourism infrastructure, and amenities will be taken up on our islands, including Lakshadweep. This will help in generating employment also. Promoting investments. The FDI inflow during 2014 to 23 was $596 billion US, marking a golden era. That is twice the inflow during 2005 to 14. For encouraging sustained foreign investment, we are negotiating bilateral investment treaties with our foreign partners in the spirit of First Develop India. FDI is First Develop India. Reforms in the states for Vikasit Bharat. Many growth and development enabling reforms are needed in the states for realizing the vision of Vikasit Bharat. A provision of 75,000 crore rupees as 50-year interest-free loan is proposed this year to support those milestone-linked reforms by the state governments. Societal changes. The government will form a high-powered committee for an extensive consideration of the challenges arising from fast population growth and demographic changes. The committee will be mandated to make recommendations for addressing these challenges comprehensively in relation to the goal of Vikasit Bharat. Amrit Kal as Kartavya Kal. Our government stands committed to strengthening and expanding the economy with high growth and to create conditions for people to realize their aspirations. Honorable Prime Minister, in his Independence Day address to the nation in the 75th year of our Republic, said, and I quote, "We commit ourselves to national development with new inspirations, new consciousness, new resolutions as the country opens up immense possibilities and opportunities. It is our Kartavya Kal." Unquote. Every challenge of the pre-2014 era was overcome through our economic management and our governance. These have placed the country on a resolute path of sustained high growth. This has been possible through right policies, true intentions, and appropriate decisions. In the full budget in July, Honorable Speaker, our government will present a detailed roadmap for our pursuit of Vikasit Bharat. Revised estimates. Revised estimates of 2023-24. The revised estimate of the total receipts other than borrowings is 27.56 lakh crores of rupees, of which the tax receipts are 23.24 lakh crore rupees. The revised estimate of total expenditure is 44.90 lakh crore rupees. The revenue receipts at 30.03 lakh crore rupees are expected to be higher than the budget estimate, reflecting strong growth momentum and formalization in the economy. The revised estimate of the fiscal deficit is 5.8% of GDP, improving on the budget estimate, notwithstanding moderation in the nominal growth estimates. Budget estimates for 2024-25. Coming to the year 2024-25, the total receipts other than borrowings and total expenditure are estimated at 30.80 and 47.66 lakh crore rupees respectively. The tax receipts are estimated at 26.02 lakh crore rupees. The scheme of 50-year interest-free loan for capital expenditure to states will be continued this year with an outlay of 1.3 lakh crore rupees. We continue on the path of fiscal consolidation, as announced in my budget speech of 2021-22, to reduce fiscal deficit below 4.5% by 25-26. The fiscal deficit in 2024-25 is estimated to be 5.1% of GDP, adhering to that path. So the gross and net market borrowings through dated securities during 24-25 are estimated at 14.13 lakh crore rupees and 11.75 lakh crore respectively. Both will be less than that in 23-24. Now that the private investments are happening at scale, the lower borrowings by the central government will facilitate larger availability of credit for the private sector. Vote on account. I'll be seeking vote on account approval of the Parliament through the appropriation bill for a part of the financial year 2024-25. I will now move to Part B. Honourable Speaker, sir, over the last 10 years, the direct tax collections have more than trebled and the return filers swelled 2.4 times. I would like to assure the taxpayers that their contributions have been used wisely for the development of the country and welfare of its people. I appreciate the taxpayers for their continued support. The government has reduced and rationalized tax rates. Under the new tax scheme, there is now no tax liability for taxpayers with income up to 7 lakh rupees, up from 2.2 lakh rupees in the financial year 2013-14. The threshold for presumptive taxation for retail businesses was increased from 2 crores to 3 crores. Similarly, the threshold for professionals eligible for presumptive taxation was increased from 50 lakh rupees to 75 lakh rupees. Also, corporate tax rate was decreased from 30% to 22% for existing domestic companies and to 15% for certain new manufacturing companies. Honourable Speaker, sir, in the last 5 years, our focus has been to improve taxpayer services. The age-old jurisdiction-based assessment system was transformed with the introduction of faceless assessment and appeal, thereby imparting greater efficiency, transparency, and accountability. Introduction of updated income tax returns, a new Form 26AS, and pre-filling of tax returns have made filing of tax returns simpler and easier. Average processing time of returns has been reduced from 93 days in the year 2013-14 to a mere 10 days this year, thereby making refunds faster. Indirect taxation. By unifying the highly fragmented indirect tax regime in India, the GST has reduced the compliance burden on trade and industry. The industry has acknowledged the benefits of GST. According to a recent survey conducted by a leading consulting firm, 94% of industry leaders view the transition to GST as largely positive. According to 80% of the respondents, it has led to supply chain optimization, as elimination of tax arbitrage and octroi has resulted in disbanding of checkposts at the state and city boundaries. At the same time, tax base of GST more than doubled, and the average monthly gross GST collection has almost doubled to 1.66 lakh crores this year. States too have benefited. States' SGST revenue, including compensation released to states in the post-GST period of 2017-18 to 2022-23, has achieved a buoyancy of 1.22. In contrast, the tax buoyancy of state revenues from subsumed taxes in the pre-GST 4-year period of 2012-13 to 2015-16 was a mere 0.72. The biggest beneficiaries are consumers, as reduction in logistic cost and taxes have brought down prices of most goods and services. We have taken a number of steps in customs to facilitate international trade. As a result, the import release time declined by 47% to 71 hours at inland container depots, by 28% to 44 hours at air cargo complexes, and by 27% to 85 hours at seaports over the last 4 years since 2019, when the national time release studies were first started. Tax proposals. As for tax proposals, in keeping with the convention, I do not propose to make any changes relating to taxation and propose to retain the same tax rates for direct and indirect taxes, including import duties. However, certain tax benefits to startups and investments made by sovereign wealth or pension funds, as also tax exemption on certain income of some IFSC units, are expiring on 31/3/2024. To provide continuity in taxation, I propose to extend the date to 31/3/2025. Moreover, in line with our government's vision to improve ease of living and ease of doing business, I wish to make an announcement to improve taxpayers' services. There are a large number of petty, non-verified, non-reconciled or disputed direct tax demands, many of them dating as far back as 1962, which continue to remain on the books, causing anxiety to honest taxpayers and hindering refunds of subsequent years. Honorable Speaker, sir, I propose to withdraw such outstanding direct tax demands up to 25,000 rupees pertaining to the period up to financial year 2009-10 and up to 10,000 rupees for financial years 2010-11 to 2014-15. This is expected to benefit about 1 crore taxpayers. 1 crore taxpayers would benefit out of this. Economy then and now. In 2014, when our government assumed the reins, the responsibility to mend the economy step by step and to put the governance systems in order was enormous. The need of the hour was to give hope to the people, to attract investments, and to build support for the much-needed reforms. The government did that successfully, following a strong belief of nation first. The crisis of those years has been overcome, and the economy has been put firmly on a high, sustainable growth path with all-round development. It is now appropriate to look at where we were then. I repeat, it is now appropriate to look at where we were then till 2014 and where we are now, only for the purpose of drawing lessons from the mismanagement of those years. The government will lay a white paper on table of the House. The exemplary track record of governance, development and performance, effective delivery and Jan Kalyan has given the government trust, confidence and blessings of the people to realize whatever it takes. The goal of Vikasit Bharat with good intentions, true dedication and hard work in the coming years and decades. With this, Honorable Speaker, I commend the interim budget to this August House. Jai Hind.
आइटम नंबर 2 श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी।
So, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003, Medium-Term Fiscal Policy cum Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement and Macroeconomic Framework Statement.
आइटम नंबर 3 श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी।
Sir, with your permission, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2024.
प्रश्न ये है कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष हुआ। माननीय मंत्री जी विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करें।
So I introduce the bill.
सभा की कार्रवाई शुक्रवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2024 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
Okay, let me get the first set of reactions in. I have with me Sandeep Ghosh in the studio here. But first I would like to go to Kishore Subramaniam and of course PK Basu for their first thoughts. I was looking at the takeaways, PK, and the first takeaway for me is the government is being extremely forthright, direct, and wants to put the facts out on what the situation was in 2014 compared to now. I think the very significant takeaway for me is the announcement by the finance minister that she would like to present a white paper on the economic progress. So that serves as some kind of a substitute to all WhatsApp information that may be going on. So the government wants to place on record where things were and where things are. So I feel, rather than look at the fine-tuning of this, which is really an enumeration of the government schemes and intent, I thought that was significant. I'd like to take your one fundamental takeaway. PK.
Well, the glide path of fiscal responsibility is very clear. This year, it will be 5.8% of GDP according to the government.
मैं पर हुआ क्या? बिजली का बिल नहीं भरा और पूछता है हुआ क्या? अभी बिल भर, नहीं तो काट डालूंगा लिटिल। जल्दी से ऐप डाउनलोड कर।
बिल तो भर दिया था, फिर डर क्यों रहे हो? हाँ, नकली चाकू नकली बिल। यूपीआई कहता है कोई भी अनजान ऐप डाउनलोड ना करें, अपने पैसे का ख्याल खुद रखें। चलिए, आपको पनवेल नहीं जाना है।
पनवेल? हाँ।
निकलिए।
सिर्फ बोला।
ये वीडियो शेयर करो और अपने आसपास के भोले को बचाओ।
So, from an economic and market standpoint, this is very positive. Of course, it's an interim budget, and therefore there can be no tax changes. The only tax change, of course, is that all the exemptions that expire at the end of March this year are extended for 1 year. But apart from that, no tax changes, which is because this is an interim budget. There is going to be much more to come in July.
Yeah, I would like to add a couple of points. See, fiscal prudence has been the path they are taking, and that's the right approach. Otherwise, it's an interim budget. I think they have been clear that there will be no populism. That is a very important point, because the moment you start hovering on taking seats and doing populism, you're going to leak a lot of money. There has been prudence on that ground, and continuously, be it 2019 or this year, we have seen the same direction where you do not take populism. That's a very good stuff, and I think that this fiscal prudence and the control of inflation, with which RBI is doing a wonderful job, will actually put us on the economic highway at a speed which will be unmatched in the globe. So positive for the markets, not much for the taxpayers, no relief because it's an interim budget, But again, remember, no bad news is great good news. That's my take. And one more point to add, just before I forget, one more point to add.
I found a very refreshing. Yeah, please.
Yeah, one more point I want to add is that the thrust on tourism on Lakshadweep was a political, whatever message you call it, it was there.
I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it. Abhishek.
Arnab, so of course the economic analysis would come from the experts. Political messaging, social justice, saturation coverage, triple talaq, women in workforce, women's reservation, and remember Arnab, BJP is strong in north and west, the focus on east and south. So the finance minister said in so many words, Eastern India is going to be the engine of growth, and she mentioned Pragananda as the power of youth, focusing on south. I think the message is clear. South and east is the focus now, west and north having taken care of. And of course, the women power, Nari Shakti, with all the things I mentioned, women's share increasing in Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, both urban and rural, triple talaq mentioned, women in workforce. She also mentioned that women are part of Waqf now, which means she's focusing on the women from minority community also. So I think that's my political message coming out of the budget.
Absolutely. I want, before I go to Sandeep, I want to go back to Piruz, who said, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Sop. He hasn't got a single sop today, but I'd like to get his take on the way things have panned out, because Piruz, the government has given its clear statement of intention. A, fiscal deficit is very well controlled, and they are talking about people-centric inclusive development. You know, of course, so you must have seen the speech for the last 1 hour. What's your single takeaway? Can't hear.
To even not have your bad news. So bad news not hearing is also good news.
You're back.
Hello.
Yeah,
your audio nahi aa raha. Okay. So sometimes no bad news is also good news, Arnab. So sometimes even no bad news is good news, and I think that there is no change in the tax structure is very good, because what I didn't want is that we should not what I call tax the rich and get to the poor. So I think that has not happened. Everything is same. Now coming to the good positive parts of the budget, I think the whole idea of infrastructure spending in rural areas, which is my industry, agri, dairy, fisheries, and I think if they also put a lot of pressure, a lot of things on infrastructure, food processing, branding, I think this is very good, because if India's manufacturing economy has to grow, even agriculture processing, dairy processing, food processing has to grow. So these are, I think, very positive announcements. As regards what I was saying earlier on ensuring a level playing field between taxes, I'm sure this will be done at a later stage in later budgets. But more importantly, there needs to be more tax reforms, and I'm very happy that they have started with at least one tax reform, that whatever disputed amounts are there, up to 25,000 rupees of past, they are ready to waive off. And I think that is a good thing, because it will ensure that the litigation decreases. There is no point of litigating for smaller amounts like 25,000 and 50,000. Also, they have linked, at the state level, they have linked money with reforms. So a lot of state governments are going slow on reforms. So I think when you give them finance and you link it to reforms, that is a very positive move. And also the sunset clause for a lot of startups and IFCI account holders and all have been extended, and I think that is exactly what I was saying, that you need to support the startup ecosystem. So to that extent, by extending those tax breaks to a little bit later date, I am sure it will help startups. So I think on a positive note, it is quite positive. It is not impacting anybody's pocket. So that way I am pretty happy, and I do believe that there is room for much more reform, much more tax breaks, but I'm sure more will come in the next budgets.
Absolutely. So I think the social welfare stance of the government continues, but at the same time, Sandeep, they are not going in for more support. They are. The government is saying very clearly, we will have the Lakpati Didi scheme. We will have 1 crore houses getting 300 units each. We will have free ration for 80 crore Indians. hereby indicating that this level of support will continue, but not further than that. The government is also looking at creating a culture of self-sufficiency. But what I found very, very refreshing, and is this clarity that we are not going to try and look for this artificial symbolism, 200 crores for women vote bank. Look at Chidambaram's budget, 1,000 crore for women, all over the women. Some money for youth, some money for a scheduled caste vote bank, some money for army personnel. It was more seeking the pink paper's headline than really doing fundamental work. This is not the sops and grants interim budget, and that's what I like about it.
Absolutely, Arnab. This is something I think the opposition misses. When they're targeting, they try to target women through swaps. But women today are looking for something aspirational, especially the younger ones. They're not interested in SOPs. They want to see their future. And therefore, encouraging this small micro entrepreneurship, what you're talking of Lakpati Didis and everything else, I think that is what gives them that hope, that aspiration with this government. And I think that is the sustained, what I see, three very sustained emphasis of the government. One is to encourage small and micro enterprises, entrepreneurship rather than enterprises, so that people become self-employed. As he says, job givers than job seekers. That is the only way to really multiply. Secondly, on sustained emphasis of Narendra Modi on increasing the efficiency of the economy. Earlier, he has tried to do through taxation, through GST and DBT, etc. But now his emphasis on Gati Shakti. The next, unlocking of value has to come from improving our logistics system. So that is, I think, a very, very enlightened move on there. His dependence on infra continues, and it is both necessary as well as both from a national asset creation point of view, as well as infra has the maximum employment intensity. So he has to do that. But all these together, sustained with this women's inclusion, as you are saying, whether through PMAY or other rural infrastructure over there, I think that to me is the more better silver lining than if anybody was expecting SOPs, anybody was expecting that kind of doles.
Let's get a headline in from our business editor Sharmila. Sharmila, what's your big headline today? If you were doing a newspaper, anyway, newspapers are out of fashion, but if you were doing a newspaper, what would be the 8-column headline?
A lot of people will be very angry with that statement, Arnab. But clearly, with the finance minister giving a very stable budget layout with no major changes, we will expect the market to be stable. The numbers are just coming in. And also, as you just said, that no big SOPs, no big doles going to be given out. The government has already said that they're quite saturated on the social schemes front. So which means that more and more capex will be diverted towards growth, manufacturing, etc., industry, which is also great for generating employment in the long term. And so I think it's a very prudent budget and not a populist one. And the government did not really try to prove any point and just stayed on its own long-term vision. So I think the government stays on its long-term growth vision is a headline that I can give you right now, Arnab.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go to Sumit Mehta also. Sumit, what do you think?
Arnab, this is an amazing budget. First thing is, no bad news, no changes is one very big good news. Second thing is the confidence that the government has in spearheading the infrastructure development. You look at Gati Shakti. When Gati Shakti Yojana was announced, the government endeavored to reduce the logistics cost, which is around 14% of the GDP, to around 8%. And for that, the kind of infrastructure that is being built, the Sagarmala project, the connectivity of rail and roads to the ports, improving the efficiency of the ports, improving the turnaround time of the ships, docking in Indian ports. This is one very big positive. Second thing is, if we look at the way government has gone ahead to reduce litigations, that is one very big reform from this government side. Up to 25,000 rupees, any tax litigation which has been going on for ages and ages, is finally we are seeing a closure of that. This is a very big relief for many businessmen. and also for the medium class taxpayers also who have been facing this kind of receipts. One very glaring factor I would like to tell you, numbers. Honorable Finance Minister talked about 34 lakh crore rupees of leakages being stopped by this particular government. 34 lakh crore rupees as a percentage of GDP is around 11% of the GDP. Government has saved leakages to the extent of 11% of the GDP, and that is the real success of the government, that they have been able to go for progressive welfareism in the state, at the same time invest heavily in infrastructure and build the kind of infrastructure which is now at from 10 lakh crores it is now increased to around 11.1 lakh crore rupees, and also very importantly increase the overall expenditure by the state in infrastructure that has gone up. Public spending in infrastructure has gone up, and I think this is a very progressive budget. It also talks about the government's confidence that reforms will continue. I like to add two things. Jim Rogers had said that there is a lot of bureaucracy. My experience as a chartered accountant.
I think, Sumit, that is the point.
When I started article.
No, Sumit, I think that is the main point. The government has not presented what would be described, Ashish, as an election budget. Am I right, Abhishek?
Yeah,
Ashish, this is not an election budget, and that's what I like about it.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there were expectations in this budget that government will announce a lot of SOPs. But if you look at it, the capital expenditure which mostly people said would be around 8 to 10% is upwards of 11.1%. So capital expenditure, which is at 3.4% of GDP, has come as an absolute surprise. You just ask somebody right now, what would be the headline for tomorrow? I think the headline, if it were a newsprint, it would be governance, development and performance, a new definition for GDP that the government has come out with. The white paper that the government has proposed on the Indian economy is, I think, a step in absolutely the right direction. The finance minister spoke about, Jan Dhan account. Now, the French president was here, so I'd just like to give it in terms of that perspective. French population is 6.7 crores, whereas India, Jan Dhan accounts opened in the last 9 years is upwards of 51 crores. And the amounts lying in that, when people said, these are waste of time and there will hardly be anything, it will be a problem to manage this account. The amounts in these accounts are 2.1 lakh crores. I think overall, if you see, government has stuck to its path when it comes to even the glide part for fiscal. I think one person who got it right, and he's on this panel, and I cannot but mention, is PK. He was the only one who kept on saying that the GDP growth will be higher than 7.5%. He's the only one who kept on saying that the government can surprise you on the fiscal deficit side, and what it is, against 5.9 and still sticking to 4.6 by FY 2026. I can see PK, a smile on PK's face. PK,
he was spot on.
You got it right.
He was absolutely spot on.
Yeah, well, I think both in terms of growth and in terms of the fiscal deficit numbers, the government is outperforming expectations by a long way. I think in terms of growth, the numbers, they are still very cautious, but I think they are going to do a lot better than the implicit growth numbers that are in the budget projection. So I'd say that the improving trend.
One last point that I want to make before I give it to you, BK. No change. There was some there were fears that there could be some tinkling with the STT, and that's not happened. There is no change in tax, so no change is actually a huge positive. That's the only point I wanted to make. PK, sorry to interrupt.
One more point I wanted to add was that one interesting mention by the Honorable Finance Minister, FDI, first develop India. Now that's going to catch a lot of headlines tomorrow on the print media, because that's a very strong message, though lightheartedly said, but first develop India. That's a very, very interesting message. And I come from an industry where mutual funds I sell, so I understand one thing, that the domestic inflows, be it through the SIPs or the mutual funds, have ensured that we are no longer dependent on the FIIs. So remember, there will be a day and age where we will be completely self-sustained, and that's a great messaging, not politically necessarily, but that's a great messaging for sustenance and growth of internal consumption and India as a whole.
Allow me one point in continuation to what you just said, Arnab. Pre-budget, we discussed about all the external headwinds, whereas what this gentleman just pointed out is that, and that's absolutely right, India's dependence on foreign investment and foreign institutional investment has gone down substantially as the rise in financial savings as a concept in India. So even if there are, headwinds and external headwinds, India and particularly Indian markets over a long term have the ability to now face them with enough amount of firepower which is in-house.
Yes, absolutely. I think Sandeep's been wanting to chip in as well.
No,
Sandeep.
I wanted to make a small point. One consistent feature of Nirmala Sitharaman's last 6 budget is every time, as you were saying, people think it's going to be a populist budget, it's going to be an election budget. I think she has stayed the course. And that's in line with Narendra Modi's thing, not taking those short-term measures.
No short-term.
No short-term.
No short-term.
And also the white paper, Arnab, everybody asked Narendra Modi, why didn't you present this white paper in 2014? And he had said, if I presented then, there would have been a total shaking of confidence on India in the global economy. So today, I think is the appropriate time to put it on record so that, as you said, all the WhatsApp misinformation and all the canards which opposition will spread is put to rest before the next term.
Yeah, because that's the real issue. What happens is that you can have all the structural reforms, the fundamental changes made over a period of time, but then you can narrow it down in an election season to that one point. That one point can be gas cylinder prices. That one point can be a momentary period of consumer price inflation, right? And the numbers can be taken out of context to give an impression. And that's the real story, isn't it? I mean, Sharmila, that the impression is given, oh, economy is doing great, but what is it doing for you? Oh, well, the country is doing great according to Narendra Modi, but only a couple of business houses are benefiting. What is it doing for you? What is it doing for unemployment? What is it doing for inflation? What is it doing for the prices of essential commodities? And I think it is very, very important right now in election season and even otherwise to set the record straight. If the government doesn't set the record straight, it will not have the popular support to continue with the structural reforms, which may appear to be made to be too harsh for the common man, benefiting only the upper middle class and the rich and the affluent and the corporate houses. So I think government's got to be very conscious of that, Sharmila. Very, very conscious of that. Absolutely. Especially in election season. So I think this is good. I mean, it's very, very good that we're going to have a counter, and I think we should have a proper debate on that as well. Yes, Sharmila.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as we see that the thrust of the government is on the manufacturing sector and its heart is in the right place when it comes to expanding manufacturing in the country, which in turn will generate employment. So if we are talking about the growth of the nation and increasing PCI, then we definitely know that manufacturing industry is going to drive that. And if we are continuing to be dependent on subsidies, eventually it's not going to benefit the economy. So to actually come up with small, hitting out at the government with on subsidies, etc., is pointless. Because if you see the long-term gain of this plan of this current government, it is completely driven towards making the nation a developed nation, and it's doing the right things at the right time to move it in the right direction. So there has to be a comprehensive economic understanding about the macro indicators and the macro picture right now. And also, we should, while you, Arnab, say that we are self-congratulatory, but we do have enough reasons to congratulate ourselves that at the time when the globe is facing a recessionary situation, India is emerging as a fastest growing economy. So if the globe has its trust in India, we are doing something right.
But Sharmila, I'll just take this point forward here. For anything that you want to do, your fundamentals must be strong.
Right.
If your political fundamentals are not strong, you can't move. Now, there are two approaches to such a situation, PK, Sandeep. Well, government strong, there's a lot of popular support. Narendra Modi is the most popular Prime Minister. He's going to break all records, and hence, at this point of time, the work will speak for itself. But that's not often the case, Sandeep. We're, for example, you and I right now in our Kolkata studios, and in the Trinamool Congress puts out the tweets, what happened to the jobs? They say prices have gone up by 64%. Garib Kalyan, Achhe Din have yielded no results. farmers are committing suicide. We need actual numbers. The government needs to put its skin in the game, Sandeep. It needs to put the numbers and not look the other way. It cannot depend on the BJP IT cell to be responding. There has to be a response from the government. That better come soon.
Narendra Modi is again very conscious of that, India rising example, which people keep quoting. Even the other day, Jairam Ramesh was saying, remember India, not India rising, India shining at that point in time. And that repeat, that's why he was putting the points straight in. And the point you made earlier, there is support, there is the base level. Now he is focusing on increasing the income at the bottom of the pyramid, putting more money in people's hands to spend. And one point, last point, that day I was again hearing a Congress spokesperson saying people are having to return to the rural areas because there are no
people are having to
return to the rural areas because there is no job in the cities. Going back to the villages is not a bad thing. And if you are really having employment opportunities there and high value addition, a lot of high net worth individuals today want to become farmers. They're going in for doing farming, organic farming and this and that. So if these kind of rural emphasis is given and people are going to
we have Rajnath Singh's soundbite coming. Can I just play that?
जी पर बहुत ही उत्साहवर्धक है और आगे के लिए भी और अधिक आशाएं बढ़ती हैं और भारत की इकॉनमी की साइज जितनी इस समय है इसमें पूरी तरह से मैं आश्वस्त हूं इस इंटरिम बजट के कारण ही जो भी इंडिकेशन इस बजट से मिले हैं कि हमारी इकॉनमी जो आज दुनिया की टाइप 5 कंट्रीज में है उसकी साइज बढ़कर 2027 तक मोर देन $5 ट्रिलियन जाएगी और 2030 आते आते मोर देन $7 ट्रिलियन तक पहुंचेगी।
2047 का जो एक रोड मैप दिया है प्रधानमंत्री,
या उस रोड मैप उस टारगेट को हम अचीव करेंगे, हम लोग पूरी तरह से कॉन्फिडेंट हैं।
थैंक यू सर।
And also following up on that, the point to be made here is that the capex for infrastructure development is presently, Kishore, at 11,111 crores. This is about 3.4 or 3.5% of GDP, Kishore?
Yeah, so that's going to thrust and give huge employment. But let me answer you back on 2 points, important points that you raised. One, why was it not populist? Because the government is confident that they are winning the election. And that is a very important message, because if the government was not confident, it would have probably minorly treaded on the path of being a little populist. So that shows confidence. Second point which you mentioned about wrong statistical data being given by opposition to sway the narrative. I will give you an example. 2 days back, Shashi Tharoor had put out a tweet, the performance of Sensex under different prime ministers. I'm going to reply to his tweet with a detailed post, but let me tell you on camera, live on national television, that Congress's performance on economic indicator from 1947 to 92, we were bankrupt. Period. Let us not forget that in 42 years to 45 years, we were bankrupt with a reserve of $1.6 billion. That is what Congress did. It took us 20 years to recover from there, and now we are moving back. So before the opposition puts such narratives and statistically trying to sway people with wrong things, you need to understand that if you look at the period where India grew the fastest, which is from 2004 to 7, that foundation was laid by BJP. Atal Bihari Vajpayee had laid that foundation, and with the Golden Quadrilateral, we started the project and we moved ahead. So swaying with numbers is very easy, but the fact of the matter is that this is the fastest growth, the best growth, fiscally the most prudent, at a GDP rate better when the globe is under recession. So we need to understand that we are not growing, we are growing under...
Mahesh Babu, Global CEO of Switch Mobility, who's joining us right now. Mahesh Babu, let's get a quick set of reactions out there, and I'll keep summarizing the big headlines in my view. Please remember, there are some areas where the numbers are not announced, but the government also said, we are going to invest greatly in deep tech in the defense sector. Watch out for that. As a statement of intent, deep tech in defense sector. Allocations will happen after the elections, but what we are talking about is defense sustainability in all areas that will be transformative to our geostrategic stability and our innate strength. Let's get Mahesh Babu. Mahesh Babu, your thoughts. You heard the budget. What direction does it give?
Yeah, I think thanks for having me in the show. I think the budget is setting up a vision of Vikshit Bharat by 2047. So it's more of a vision. While it is an interim budget, as you rightly said, 1 lakh crore have been set up for new tech. It has been told it's going to be the golden era for new tech technologies with interest-free loans. We'll have to wait and watch how that just encourages the sector. I also like the idea of not having any taxes, so it gives stability to the industry, and clear fiscal prudence of bringing down the fiscal deficit from 5.8 to 5.1. It's clearly showing the fiscal prudence, and particularly in the auto sector, very specifically talking about country's commitment towards net zero by 2070, schemes around it. And in the automotive sector, I'm very heartened to hear that electric bus is being focused, that is for public transport, and the payment security mechanism is being worked out by the government. While it's an interim budget, I think such specific announcements clearly boost the sector like automotive, particularly in the EV.
Correct. Correct. Now there's one tweet going around which is going viral now, came from Piyush Goyal with just the prophetic words out there. In July 2024, ... Along with that, a video clip where the finance minister says that in July 2024, our government will present a detailed roadmap for Vikasit Bharat. And so the expectation out here, Sharmila, Abhishek, is that there'll be fireworks in July.
Obviously. Obviously, so the finance minister has kept the powder dry, for the bigger one. Obviously, she has kept the powder dry for the bigger one, or no?
Yeah, but that's a big message, right? I mean, there's going to be like, oh, okay, so the big game changer budget. That's
also the kind of confidence that the government has that, you know, they don't need these big bang kind of things just to win an election. The election they are anyway winning.
ये तो सिर्फ झांकी है,
ये तो सिर्फ
झांकी है,
असली बजट बाकी है। ये तो सिर्फ झांकी है, असली बजट बाकी है। I get sense, you know, I like this quiet confidence. You know, forever we've been condemned with situations where it's almost like handouts being given. A railway budget by Lalu Prasad Yadav. Lalu Prasad and Chidambaram have ruined the economy of the country and the railway economy of the country respectively. I find it rather more exciting that in one sentence, instead of wasted effort, the government says that we are going to, I think a mention was made of 40,000 coaches, rail bogies, which will be brought to
Vande
Bharat levels. And that was a very matter of fact thing, Abhishek. No great elaboration of it.
Yeah.
This route, that route, we will give it from Kolhapur to this place and hence vote for me there. We'll give it from Guwahati to Silchar, hence vote for me there. There is no attempt at all at appealing to any vote banks.
And releasing the passenger track by moving to the
I like the fact that they're not talking about geographical sectors and getting claps from certain areas, then seeking those stops. That's so terrible. It's so demeaning. We're not seeing any of that happen right now. That's for me is very, very exciting. Keshav Majanka,
congratulate PK, our own Raghuram Rajan. Raghuram Rajan predicted 5.5% and PK gave us the correct prediction of GDP.
Yeah, of course. You can't. I mean, PK is at another level. PK is at another level. He's coming into his prime, unlike Raghuram, who is over the hill. So we have to keep PK strongly encouraged on those factors out there. We have a lot of faith in PK and Kishore, and that's the way we look at it. Keshav Bhajanka of Century Ply. Keshav, hi. You saw the whole budget speech. How did it sound? How do you feel?
I think we need to give credit where credit is due. It is a fantastic budget. I think the government has truly stated, it's a statement of fact that we are going to move towards 10, 20, 30 trillion. And a few highlights, the increase in spending on infrastructure, which is something that we're all hoping for. The focus on the Prime Minister Gramin Awas Yojana, which is going to be really beneficial for our sector, and the focus on the tourism industry. I think from the point of view of real estate and housing and related sectors, it is an excellent budget. And I don't think, we could have expected, most of us are expecting populist measures, but I don't think that has come through. I think this is a brilliant and a very, very balanced budget.
Ask Mr. Bhajanka about the cement corridor. he also makes cement.
Ask him directly.
Mr. Bhajanka, what about the cement corridor? How do you think it will benefit the cement industry, especially since you're in the northeast? And will it give you greater reach, footprint in the mainland?
Good point to him, yeah.
100%. I think, the steps that are being taken, they are to promote business all across. The Northeast has been a slightly, I would say, neglected sector. But now the initiatives, like Arnab said, it is not about from this part of the country to that part. It is not about vote bank. This is a budget for the entire economy, and business in general is going to benefit financially.
Today, movement of cement, etc., gets stuck with coal movement, sometimes agriculture movement. But having a separate corridor, it's also, Narendra Modi's integrated vision of infrastructure. He doesn't look at it in isolation. He needs to create Gati Shakti. He needs to create channels for cement and the ports, etc. I think that is what's distinguishing.
Yeah, okay. Nirmala Sitharaman speaking in the Rajya Sabha right now. I'd like to cut it briefly, please.
Statement and macroeconomic framework statement. Thank you.
Honorable members, I have to inform honorable members that panel of vice chairpersons has been reconstituted with the following members: Srimati Ramila Ben Bechar Bhai Bara, Srimati Seema Dwivedi, Dr. Ami Yaznik, Srimati Mosam Noor, Shri Kanak Medla Ravindra Kumar, Shri Prabhakar Reddy Vemi Reddy, Professor Manoj Kumar Jha, Lieutenant General Dr. D.P. Vats Sevanivrit. The House stands adjourned to meet at 11 a.m. on Friday, the 2nd February 2024.
All right, so those pictures coming in from the Rajya Sabha after the budget was commended to the Lok Sabha. It's being presented in the Rajya Sabha also. Remember, both the houses have to pass the budget. There would, of course, be a short discussion also, and then it gets passed. I believe in the Lok Sabha it did get passed, right? And the Rajya Sabha, in fact, got adjourned till tomorrow. We are looking at the takeaways from the budget. We are having this conversation. And Sharmila, our business editor, is with us. We have spoken about the fiscal consolidation. We have spoken about the continuity. We have spoken about the political messaging in the budget, a bit of which I saw also, like it is as a journalist to see, as a political observer. The finance minister, I'm told, wearing a Kantha silk sari from Bengal. And the color was Ramam, as it is called in Tamil Nadu, right? Right, Mr. Subramaniam? Exactly. So the blue color of Ram, and it's called Ramam in Tamil Nadu. So the focus entirely on Bengal and Tamil Nadu, I believe, and political messaging, so to say. So I think going ahead, let's continue the conversation on the specific areas, some of the specific areas which the finance minister focused. So for example, 100,000 crore, 1 lakh crore rupees corpus for sunrise sector research. Now, isn't this fantastic? I'm told we are joined in by Mr. Adil Shetty. I believe he's joining us from CII, if I can be told. Okay, Mr. Adil Shetty, the CEO of Bank Bazaar, is joining us. Mr. Shetty, your first reaction to the interim budget that the finance minister has just presented.
Yeah, we like the coverage on the digital economy. So the finance minister recognized digital public infra as the new factor of production. This is a big, economic statement. You think of labor, you think of capital, but to say that digital public infra like Aadhaar, video KYC, UPI, that this is the new factor of production is a big deal. You covered the 1 lakh crore 50-year low interest rate to zero interest rate loans for sunrise sectors. We'll see the scheme to see how it's being operationalized. But 1 lakh crore is a lot of money, right? A lot of money to be investing in growing innovation sectors. She spoke about regulatory support for MSMEs. A lot of new digital laws are coming out in India, digital privacy, digital India, SRO for fintech. So I think if we can create an innovation ecosystem in India, we could be the digital economy of the world. I think it's an exciting time.
Adil, Sharmila joining in and adding to Abhishek's question here. We know that the government's intent is to make more and more people shift from the old regime of taxation to the new regime, but we don't see any incentivization just yet. Do you expect some movement in the next July budget where you think a nudge from the government would onboard more and more people to the new regime of taxation?
Yeah, great question, right? Because we find in most cases when we do the math at Bank Bazaar that people are actually better off in the new regime. To give you a data point, unless you have over 4.2 lakhs in deduction, and 4.2 lakhs in deduction is difficult. It means home loan interest of 2 lakhs, NPS of 50,000, you're actually better in the new regime. But because of the status quo, right, people have not shifted. I think in July, if one sweetener can be given, like last time, they reduced the highest tax rate, they reduced the number of slabs from 6 to 5. I think one sweetener, like you said in July, can do the trick to have a mass transition to the new regime.
Adil, are you sure? Are you sure that the new tax regime is attractive? My CA tells me otherwise. That you're better off with the old one.
So unless you have deduction of over 4.25 lakh, which I find a minority of people have, you're actually better off in the new tax regime when you're a salaried over 15 lakh individual. But I think the status quo is stopping people from moving because I don't want to go through the trouble of running the calculation. But today you can do it online in 2 minutes.
No,
please try it.
No, but the important point is not about the new tax regime, about 4.2 lakhs. What is important is that if you remove the old tax regime, your savings will go away. You understand that yes, it will translate into consumption, but consumption of what? Data, mobile and stuff. So remember that it is a double loss. The government also does not get the money, the insurance sector does not get the money, the long-term bonds don't get the money. So the savings will move away, and the gross domestic savings, which moving from a socialist economy to a capitalist economy, we have seen fast erosion or reasonably fast erosion of GDS, and we do not want that to happen. We don't want India to be a country 25-30 years later like America, fully debt driven, because today if you look at an employee in my organization who is earning 40 to 45,000, he average holds 6 credit cards. Now this is not great news for the youngster. We need to have the GDS up. So the old tax regime should stay because it allows people to save. If you move on saying that, okay, I'll give you till 10 lakhs, don't save money, just spend it. Consumption may move up. Added to that, inflation will also fast shoot up. So I believe both the tax regimes are a good thing to have. We need not incentivize to move to the new tax regime.
Your thoughts on that, Adil? It's very interesting what he just said. So that do we move towards a fast consumption economy, which is a given when a country is looking towards becoming a developed nation, but then how do we also keep our domestic savings protected?
Well, if I could just respond, the interesting thing is that what is incentivized in the old tax regime is saving through insurance. If you save through fixed deposits, you don't get the incentives. So if you're in a new tax regime, you're not going to do as much saving through investment. You're just going to place much more fixed deposits. So I think in some ways, if there's a benefit from this, it is a shift from insurance to banking. The banks will benefit a bit more from the adoption and acceptance of the new tax regime.
Okay, Adil, since you represent Bank Bazaar, we know what has happened yesterday with the Payments Bank of Paytm and the RBI. Your thoughts on the stability of the markets?
So First,
And
on
the
the
sector?
earlier question, and then I'll comment on this. So I think what the financial situation in India today is, a lot of good financial products are out there which you should buy irrespective of having a deduction or not, or an incentive or not from a tax perspective. So what I mean by that is, look at a product like term insurance. Everyone needs to have 5 times their annual income as term insurance if they die. Look at what's happening with SIPs. So I think the belief today in India is we have a mature financial market, which fortunately the regulator has made very consumer friendly. So there is an incentive to buy a product, whether you're in the new or the old regime, because you should be saving via mutual funds. You should be having term life insurance. You should be having general insurance. Now, what the regulator is saying, right, to your second question, is that people need to follow the rules for long-term success. Everything the regulator and the RBI has done, they said it's not about short-term growth or breaking the system, but we have to do the things which will build for long-term success. That means good governance, following the compliance rules, and partnerships, right, between the banks and the fintechs. So I think let's look at what the regulator wants over the long term. They want fintechs to grow. They want digital economy to grow. Everyone in India, and the finance minister mentioned digital economy, innovation so many times. Artificial intelligence, right, is going to transform India in the next 10 years.
Okay,
but we have to do it, right, while ensuring compliance, ensuring governance. And I think that's the long-term trend the regulator is setting, saying, yes, please innovate, but please make sure that we follow the highest
Adil, just hold on for a bit. There is some technical issue that we are just sorting out. Meanwhile, you were disagreeing with him on something.
I was disagreeing with two facts. You see, where I humbly disagree with Adil is that, India is a matured market. It's a wrong data. I'll tell you why. Because
okay, hold on. Arnab is joining in, so he takes over. Okay, fine. Okay, so we are just switching the PCR, and Arnab would be there on the other side, and we continue the conversation from there actually. Are we through? I think very soon we are going to also get reaction from the Prime Minister on the budget. We are waiting for that. Let me see if we have got something. Okay. All right. So basically, all right, shall we sort of slip into a short break of a minute and then come back by the time the switch happens? We take a short break.
Increasing capex, it is required. That's what is keeping the economy going. So I'm glad that was done. End of the day, is that money supply in the economy keeps it going. And right now the government is
so, did I tell?
The budget has continued that. Of course, in the longer, medium to longer term, the budget, the future budget would have to bring in policies to stimulate private investment in the economy. But as far as this budget is concerned, I think this is a good move. Absolutely, and I think our economy is in a good space, no doubt. Unlike what is happening globally, our economy is in a good space. But lots, of course, needs to be done. Like I mentioned first, how to stimulate private investment. If we have to stimulate demand, and and consumption. If I start looking at from the housing point of view, for example, a lot of the incentives which were given to encourage, especially affordable housing, were taken back in the I'm hoping in the next budget those coming, which are primarily tax benefits both to the consumer, to the demand improve, and to the developer, people who are constructing, because you've seen overall housing is doing well, but affordable housing section, there has been a reduction in demand and supply because a lot of those incentives are taken up. The fact is the cost of construction, the cost of land has gone up. The cost of money, the mortgage rates have gone up, the borrowing rates have gone up. So there has to be some incentive structure put in place which will stimulate demand. On the other hand, I think this budget also mentioned about tourism, mentioned about new airports, also skill development. So there were a lot of positive, I think everything was positive. It's only in the next budget, hopefully I expect that there will be specific steps which will be mentioned, which will really stimulate demand, increase consumption. The bottom line is we have to continue to increase consumption in the economy if we want the economy to keep on growing.
फोल्डर नहीं आ रहा है, शो लेना
There is an excellent report card which the finance minister shared in terms of progress made. There was maybe a concern on many of our parts that given that it's an election year, that there could have been more fiscal profligacy. But rather than even just staying with what was committed in terms of the fiscal deficit, we've seen the commitment to reduce from 5.3, which had been earlier committed, to 5.1, which comes obviously on two fronts. One is a firm belief that tax collection, growth, revenue are all supporting the economy and indeed the fiscal budget as we go forward. But on the other, that the government has not needed or desired to hand out anything more than they have done thus far. So there are a few schemes, the schemes on research and development, but most of it is to continue to focus on what we have done and done well. I think what has been mentioned is, of course,
audio check 1 2 3 4 audio check. Am I audible?
Private sector step in to also do the capital expenditure, which has basically been the government's preserve. But interestingly, despite the fisc having been brought down, capex has actually gone up 11.1%. I think it's very tongue-in-cheek of the finance minister to talk about the numbers all in 11s and 1s. But we've seen both an amount increase, growth of 11.1% in the capital expenditure that government will continue on. And infrastructure has been such a big play by this government, executed extremely well. The focus and the
हिजाब को तहजीब और परंपरा बताया और हिजाब पर बीजेपी